if there's one thing that's kind of noticeably different this year in 2024 going into 25 versus 2023 going into 2024 for Georgia, it's that they've got half the amount of players so far that have entered the NCAA's transfer portal, one of which was Carson Beck that nobody thought would be, coming back to Georgia. So you could really say it's 9, but nonetheless, I wonder if that's going to matter in the grand scheme of things. I've done an audit of the roster and scholarship table at Georgia. There's something really too important to remember here. First of all, the Southeastern Conference is limiting scholarships at 85. So why is that? Why am I even talking about that? Because the NCAA is going to a model where there's 105. So that's going to get worked out over time. But right now the SEC is sticking at 85. I'm not sure I can answer exactly why the SEC is doing 85 versus 105. Part of it has to do, I'm sure, with the walk-on situation in that there's not going to be any in the future. But I think, the league just, sometimes the SEC says, wait a second, let's just wait for a second here and before we make, decisions we cannot recover from. That's a lot of what the SEC is like. But right now, this second, you've got 56 players returning this year versus 54 about this time last year. So that will change a little bit because Georgia's over the number right now in terms of the 85. But that, again, I've done this so long. People get worked up about that. Trust me. Trust me when I tell you. Mark Richt, Kirby Smart, Jim Donnan. You're never going to be over the number. It does not happen. It will not happen. You're not permitted to let it. It's not possible. So Georgia will be at their 85 in the future. And the one thing to remember about coming into this year versus coming into last year versus this year, Georgia had a medical disqualification. So there's all sorts of things that are going to go into this. But there are 36 freshmen that are coming that were on Georgia's team this past year. 3 are not returning. So all of those guys have been in the program for a year. All of them are transitioning into next year, and more than half of that 36 played. Okay, 21 of the 36 players played in at least 3 games. 11 of them played in 6 games or more. 3 of them were, played in 14 games, so all of the games. Almost nobody did that. So when you just look at the breakdown from one season to the other, from last year going from 24 to 25, right now as it stands, there are no seniors coming back. So that's been very rare. You've had guys like Stetson Bennett, Xavier Truss. They've all extended as far as they can go in time. That's been something that's been pretty steady at Georgia. That's not happening this season. You have 7 juniors that will be seniors coming back now. And I'm not talking about the transfer guys, okay? The class that was, and this is going to happen more and more over time at Georgia, at Alabama, it's your junior class that's really going to get decimated because those are guys who have been really good players when they're younger, and they have to decide, am I going to the NFL or not? Half of Georgia's junior class is leaving. So that's Williams, Walker, Starks, Ingram Dawkins, Fairchild, Etienne, and Wilson. 7 guys of the 14, they are leaving. But none of the juniors that I have are transferring yet. So they had 14 seniors on this past season. They had 14 juniors. Half of the juniors are coming back. That's about the same as last year, if I'm not mistaken. Now, you had 7 sophomores who are transferring out. They just basically weren't. The big thing that I have seen in this year so far is that Georgia's losing 10 players to the portal in this period of time, and 6 are coming in. My suspicion is they'll lose more in the spring. I don't know who and when, but if you look at this list, 2 of them could have been starters this coming year, which have been Humphrey and Wilson, and perhaps Jamal Jarrett, but the rest of them were not going to start. Now, I think that the 2 guys that are going to miss the most will be Anthony Evans because of his ability to have speed, and Damon Wilson. But they've got a bunch of linebackers. So, in the grand scheme of things, I'll put it on the screen because I did all this work over at Dawg Post. It's taken me a little bit of time to do this, to be honest with you. And this is all over on the website, okay? So, when you go to Dawg Post, right now I'm writing about the Auburn basketball game, but this is all stuff that you're going to get on Dog Post, and I can go through it real quick. But I think when you look globally at this Georgia program, it's younger, but they're always young, y'all. I mean, coming into this season, they were more than 50 players were sophomores or younger. I mean, Gunnar Stockton was a sophomore on this team. He was going to be this is going to be a younger team. And more and more and more teams are going to be younger. That's just all there is to it. Ohio State is going to have a lot of turnover this going into 25. You could say this. I don't know the details of Notre Dame as well, but you could say the same thing about Notre Dame, Alabama. Everybody's going to have consistent turnover. And the one thing I will add about Georgia's class, or this team coming up for this Georgia group, I'm talking so fast. There's really no reason to scream and yell like this. A lot of the guys that are coming back, that are younger, you look at Lucky, Aguero, Harris, Freeling, Woodring, Stockton, Green, Miller, Bobo, Humphreys has got 2 years left. I mean, they were younger players that were good. Bolden, Cole, Jackson, Bolden, Cole, Frazier, Justin Williams, Jones, Johnson, McLeod, Tuggle. These are younger guys that are playing a lot. I think the biggest thing is that if you're Georgia and you look at everything right now, you're young. Well, you knew that coming into the season. So you knew you were going to be young anyway. Like, being young is just that's how this goes now in college football. There's nothing new about that. And there's nothing, like, that's always going to be the case. You're either going to be new or young. My coach in college, man, our class that came in, we were a pretty big basketball class. And he started screaming at us one time. He said, "There's no young. You're either good young or you're bad young." And of course, at that moment, he was screaming at us that we were bad young, which, he was probably right. Our friends at BetMGM have a great offer for you today. Use the promo code MEGABET, MEGABET, and get the chance to get up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. The link is right down below. We appreciate our buddies at BetMGM and this MEGABET offer, MEGABET. Chance to offer up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Make sure you're betting responsibly. And there's going to be a lot of stuff coming out in the near future. We're going to have new odds for the national championship. Georgia's going to probably they won't be the 1, but they'll either be 2, 3, or 4. And that will fluctuate over time. I am curious, because of, you looked at Ohio State and they'll play for a national championship on Monday night. That's the other thing too, from the Orange Bowl till today. That's a long period of time. It feels like a long period of time. I mean, I remember coming back from, the turnaround from the Orange Bowl to the national championship in Indianapolis was not an crazy amount of time. But because of travel with weather, it was pretty bad. The fastest turnaround was Rose Bowl, and then you played on the 8th in Atlanta. That was bad. Like, that was unfair to both Georgia and Alabama. But in the game where Georgia played in the Peach Bowl, they played on the 31st. I don't think they played the national championship until like 10 days later. That was it felt so long. That was such an extended period of time between the Ohio State and TCU games. So we will get to see the national championship on Monday night. And then on Tuesday, the 2025 season starts. And, who are you going to add? And there's guys, who are you going to add was what I was trying to spit out a second ago. But there are guys in there's a lot of optimism about the high level, the top of the class of 2025 with Taylor, Gibson, and Griffin. I mean, having seen 2 of those 3 with my own eyes, they are going to be good players in the SEC. The question is how quick. I think the question is how quick. And the other thing, too, for this Georgia team, a lot of these players that are younger, Puglisi, I would imagine Calhoun, they're going to, even McLeod didn't play a lot this past year. McLeod did play 11 games. He only had 6 tackles, but, he's a defensive lineman. So that's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is your younger guys, that are going to be good players. We don't know what Calhoun's got. You don't know what Hughley's got yet. We don't know where Merriweather's at yet. The one guy that did play a lot as a young player for Georgia but did not start, was Jackson, who's a massive offensive lineman. If he is your tackle, so that's why I say with the offensive line, it might not be as dire straits as it seems in 25 and beyond. You need a tackle or tackles, and from there, you just like take it from there. If you've got 3 guys that you feel like can start at tackle, that is awesome because inevitably someone gets hurt. And that's just always what happens in the SEC. But I was looking at this. I think that moving forward, you're always going to have to do this in order to have success at Georgia. You're always going to have to be young and win. It's just what it is. Thanks for watching.